In January 1936, at the Springfield Armory in Massachusetts, the U.S. Army standardized a rifle that would permanently change infantry warfare. It was the M1 Garand, a semi-automatic weapon designed to replace the bolt-action Springfield rifle. It became the world's first standard-issue semi-automatic infantry rifle officially adopted by a major military. However, the rifle could not be issued to every soldier overnight. Production and distribution took years, and when war broke out, many American units in the Philippines were still armed with Springfield rifles. But once the Garand appeared on the front lines in significant numbers, it gave U.S. squads an advantage that few other armies could match. Within just 6 years of its standardization, military observers who had once dismissed semi-automatic rifles as overly complex and too expensive were forced to watch their soldiers fall in unprecedented numbers under American firepower. The M1 Garand did not merely give U.S. troops a better rifle. It introduced an entirely different class of weapon, one that effectively tripled the rate of fire of each individual soldier. The fundamental issue had been clear from the very beginning. In 1918, the American Expeditionary Forces fought with the M1 Springfield, a bolt-action rifle that was accurate and reliable. But bolt-action rifles had an inherent limitation that made infantry units extremely vulnerable. After each shot, the soldier had to manually pull the bolt to the rear, push it forward, lock it in place, and then reacquire the target before firing again. Even a well-trained marksman could manage only about 10 to 15 accurate shots per minute under combat conditions. Against concealed machine gun and artillery fire, that rate of fire was simply insufficient. World War I demonstrated that crossing open ground in front of well-fortified defensive positions was nearly suicidal. Machine guns dominated the battlefield, but they were heavy, required a crew, and could not maneuver alongside attacking infantry. What infantry needed was an individual weapon capable of delivering a much higher volume of fire. The concept of a semi-automatic rifle, one that cycles itself after each shot, allowing the soldier to fire again simply by pulling the trigger, had existed for decades. However, no army had yet solved the engineering challenge of turning it into a weapon that was reliable enough, light enough, and inexpensive enough for mass issue. The man who finally solved that problem was not born in the United States. M1 Garand was born on January 1, 1888, in Saint-Rémy, Quebec, into a French-Canadian family with 12 children. He immigrated to the United States in 1899 at the age of 11 and settled in Connecticut after his mother's death. While sweeping floors at a textile factory, he taught himself machining and learned English alongside his training in metalworking. Garand became a United States citizen in 1920. On November 4, 1919, he joined Springfield Armory as an engineer. Over the next 17 years, he worked through a continuous cycle of design, testing, failure, and refinement. His early designs used a primer-actuated recoil system that functioned but was not yet satisfactory. The breakthrough came on April 12, 1930, when he was granted a patent for a gas-operated mechanism. Propellant gases were vented through a port in the barrel, driving a piston connected to an operating rod that rotated and unlocked the bolt. This system proved durable enough to withstand the harsh conditions of the battlefield. The path to official adoption required Garand to defeat the Pedersen rifle in a series of competitive trials. The Pedersen design relied on waxed ammunition, which was unacceptable in the mud of trench warfare and the humid climate of the Pacific. It also contained more parts, cost more to manufacture, and fully exposed the chamber when open, making it highly vulnerable to dirt and debris. By January 1932, the Garand rifle was recommended for adoption, but General Douglas MacArthur intervened personally. As Army Chief of Staff, he refused to approve a new caliber because large stocks of .30 ammunition remained in inventory. Garand was therefore forced to redesign the rifle entirely around the .36 cartridge. On January 9, 1936, the M1 was officially adopted as the standard rifle of the U.S. Army. Its specifications reflected the value of decades of development. The M1 Garand fired the .36 Springfield cartridge, launching a 150-grain bullet at approximately 2,800 feet per second, with muzzle energy exceeding 2,600 foot-pounds. This represented formidable firepower for an individual infantry rifle. Its effective range was about 440 yards for the average soldier. The rifle measured 43.6 inches in overall length, with a 24-inch barrel, and weighed approximately 9.5 pounds unloaded. However, the most important characteristic was not its size or weight, but its rate of fire. A trained infantryman could deliver 40 to 50 aimed shots per minute. This was not a theoretical mechanical rate, but a practical battlefield capability, measured by the number of rounds accurately placed on target under actual combat conditions. The semi-automatic mechanism allowed the soldier to maintain both firing position and sight picture between shots. This was critically important when engaging moving targets and when generating suppressive fire. The goal was not to turn every infantryman into a machine gunner. Rather, it was to change the rhythm of a firefight. More rounds could be placed on target, with less time spent breaking position to work the bolt. As a result, fire could be sustained continuously while squads maneuvered. The Garand turned every infantry rifleman into a reliable source of supporting fire for his comrades. Its 8-round en-bloc clip was loaded from the top in a single motion. When the final round was fired, the clip was automatically ejected with the distinctive metallic ping, and the bolt locked open, ready for reloading. A complete reload took only 2 to 3 seconds. The entire system, from the gas port and rotating bolt to the clip ejection mechanism, operated with remarkable mechanical refinement. It continued to function reliably in mud, sand, snow, and even salt water. Production was scaled up on a level that only American industry could achieve. Springfield Armory began in 1937 with an output of just 10 rifles per day. By January 1942, production had risen to thousands of rifles daily. At its peak, monthly output exceeded 122,000 rifles, nearly 4,000 per day. Winchester also joined the effort under contract. By the end of its production life, more than 5.4 million M1 Garands had been manufactured. The cost per rifle was commonly estimated at around $80 to $90 during wartime. But the most critical factor was the speed at which production could be expanded. Before we take a closer look at how this rifle performed on the battlefield, if you enjoy in-depth analysis of American military technology, consider subscribing. It only takes a few seconds, costs nothing, and helps support the channel's growth. Now, let's turn to its combat record. The M1 Garand first saw combat in the Philippines in December 1941 and continued to be used during the Bataan campaign. Many soldiers still carried M1-3 Springfield rifles alongside the new weapon. Some Filipino scouts even traded away their Garands because they were not yet accustomed to a semi-automatic rifle. Initial reactions from veteran soldiers were skeptical. Many of the old hands complained that the rifle was less accurate, wasted ammunition, and was prone to jamming. The Marine Corps also resisted adoption, citing 3 decades of tradition with the Springfield. Combat experience, however, quickly silenced most of the criticism. In the Pacific Theater, the semi-automatic advantage proved devastating. Japanese soldiers on Guadalcanal were reportedly bewildered by how the Americans seemed able to issue machine guns to every infantryman. The resulting disparity in firepower shattered Banzai charges. At Saipan in July 1944, approximately 4,300 Japanese troops charged forward in the largest Banzai attack of the war. They advanced directly into concentrated American fire. U.S. soldiers armed with the M1 Garand, supported by bars and machine guns, annihilated nearly the entire attacking force. As the war progressed, Japanese commanders increasingly avoided large-scale charges, as they proved catastrophic against American firepower. In Europe, the rifle demonstrated its value from North Africa through Normandy and into the Battle of the Bulge. On D-Day, roughly 50,000 American troops landed on Omaha and Utah beaches, carrying M1 Garands, often waterproofed against seawater. Paratroopers jumped with their rifles partially disassembled and secured in padded containers. Veteran Obie Hill of the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 42nd Airborne Division, left a clear first-hand account. He stated that his M1 was soaked during the jump into Normandy, yet continued to function perfectly. Even during the Battle of the Bulge, under extremely harsh conditions, he never experienced a malfunction. When given the option to choose any weapon as a non-commissioned officer, he kept the M1 because it had carried him through numerous dangerous situations. Its advantage over the bolt-action rifles of the Axis powers was unmistakable. Germany's Kar 98K Mauser could deliver only about 10 to 15 aimed shots per minute from its 5-round magazine. Reloading required the use of stripper clips or individual rounds, combined with manual bolt operation, taking 8 to 10 seconds. The M1 Garand offered 3 to 4 times the rate of fire, with a far faster reload. Some German soldiers reported that it felt as though they were facing automatic fire rather than ordinary riflemen. Germany attempted to respond with the G43, but it did not appear until October 1943. It was produced in limited numbers and arrived too late to have any meaningful impact. Only about 400,000 G43 rifles were produced, compared to more than 5 million Garands. German evaluations acknowledged that the G43 was inferior to the M1. Some German soldiers even preferred their bolt-action rifles or captured American weapons over their own semi-automatic rifle. Japan's efforts were even less successful. The Type 4 rifle was a direct copy of the M1 Garand, chambered for Japan's 7.7mm cartridge. Development did not begin until 1944, and only about 125 to 250 rifles were completed before Japan's surrender. Many Type 4 rifles were never even fully assembled, and chronic jamming problems were never resolved. The Type 4 never saw combat. One persistent myth needs to be addressed: the story that enemy soldiers exploited the distinctive ping of the ejected clip to attack American troops while they were reloading is not supported by credible evidence. A 1952 survey of 315 Korean War veterans found that they preferred retaining the sound by a 2-to-1 margin because it helped signal when a reload was needed. German veterans interviewed later also considered the idea of attacking after the ping to be absurd. The sounds of the battlefield, rifle fire, machine guns, and artillery, completely drowned out the relatively faint metallic noise. The window of vulnerability was extremely brief, and most engagements were fought at the squad level rather than by isolated individuals. The M1 Garand continued as the primary U.S. service rifle during the Korean War, where its reliability and performance in extreme cold were again widely praised. It was officially replaced by the M14 in 1958, a design that evolved directly from Garand's work. The M14 retained his rotating bolt, gas-operated system, and trigger group. The rifle was adopted by more than 40 countries. In the United States, the civilian marksmanship program continues to sell surplus Garands to qualified civilians to this day. On January 26, 1945, General George S. Patton wrote that the M1 rifle was the greatest battle implement ever devised. Its combat record validated that assessment. From the Philippines to the Bulge, from Guadalcanal to Iwo Jima, American soldiers consistently outmatched their opponents in prolonged firefights. A weapon once dismissed as too complex for mass issue proved rugged enough for both tropical jungles and Arctic cold. John Garand never received royalties for his invention. He worked for the government, and the rifle belonged to the nation. He retired from Springfield Armory in 1953 after 34 years of service. When asked about compensation, he was reportedly content to say that he was satisfied to have served his adopted country. That country repaid him with something beyond price: the opportunity to equip millions of young Americans with the finest infantry rifle of its era, a rifle that turned every American soldier into a true marksman.